Alright, now there's been like a few times when I've ranted about energy fields, about waveforms and particle and things like that. A few times, somewhat. Now, call it. Well, okay. What am I trying to get at here? I need to shut that off so it shuts the fuck up here. Shut up. Okay, so in the current day, we are surrounded by many unnatural frequencies, waveforms, and particles alike. We're surrounded by unnatural form of light waves, unnatural sources of sound waves, unnatural. You got radio waves, all sorts of different frequencies, radio frequencies. You got your radio signal, your satellite signal, your cell phone signals, your 3G, 4G, 5G, 2G. This all these signals. Not to mention the alternating current. I mean, let's not mention that because that's present in all of these things. Now, frequencies can affect physical matter. If you want to speak of this place as being physical matter, although it seems to me that the double slit experiment kind of puts that into question. But if you want to think about this place as being tangible physical matter, then you could say that frequency has an effect. I mean, look at, you ever hear of the, Tesla's earthquake machine? How he, created a device that, like, you could, I've heard that some of these devices, in some way, are actually used in, like busting up rocks and stuff like that. Or they were at some point. But, I think that, like, they were actually used, I don't know. I just know that there were blueprints for this earthquake machine, stories that he had, caused earthquakes with him and stuff, and that, he could basically, had designs for a device that basically you could fit it in your pocket and you could go strap it to a huge bridge, and over a course of time, as it caused the bridge to resonate with the right frequency, you could fucking collapse a bridge or something with this little fucking thing that you could fit in your pocket, basically. Okay, right? No, allegedly, there's a book about it, and probably more than one book about it. I imagine there's blueprints and stories and all, you can find that stuff. I mean, you already know about things like LRAD, for instance, right? Long-range acoustic devices and stuff. Most people, whether they remember or not, have probably heard of the brown noise, or have heard of white noise, or, you know, and I'm sure people are somewhat aware of the existence of brain waves, right? Brain waves. Talk about waveforms. You've got radio waves, light waves, sound waves, brain waves, right? Frequencies, they have machines in which they can read people's brains. You understand? Like brain scans, they can read your brain. This is stuff that it's fairly basic. I mean. So okay. Personally, and I don't know how many other people have noticed this stuff, but personally I've noticed, just from my own observation, that there seems to be a correlation between various technological events and a change in the behavior of human beings that sort of seems to coincide with the rollout of these various technologies. I noticed a change in behavior even back in the early 2000s when they got rid of the old incandescent bulbs and told us we all had to switch to these compact fluorescents at that time. I noticed a sort of a change in behavior. But around the same time, there was also they were also putting up a lot more, like, internet lines and stuff like that. So, and they were boosting the signal on the cell towers to some extent and stuff too. So I'm just saying, like, every time they made the cell phone signal stronger, or changed up the light frequency on the light bulbs, or all these things that they've done, like with the installation of smart meters, and perhaps shifting of frequencies that the alternating current is being pumped out at, or the addition of different frequency levels of Wi-Fi, and different types of radio waves being introduced, and so on and so forth. As these things have been happening, 5G, for instance, right? Personally, I've noticed a change in human behavior that seems to be negative. A negative change in human behavior, in large part, like a decrease in conscious awareness, an increase in irritability, and negative thoughts and emotions. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, I've noticed these things, that it seems to be these changes in human behavior, and the changes in even things going on in the political structure and the way that people behave. And it seems to me, from my own personal observation, that these have coincided with changes in the types of waveforms that are in our environment. Let me ask you something, just so you can think about this for yourself. You ever have a, period of time you can think of, say in the last 10 years or whatever, some point where the power went out for a couple of days or even longer? Anyone that's experienced this? You notice sort of some sensation of like a weight off your shoulders, feeling more clear-headed, more calm, of having better interactions with people. Just think about it, Or how about like if you ever go out in the woods. You ever just get so stressed out you need to decompress, you go out in the woods. You know. Or you ever feel like really different? Like if you go out, say like let's say you go drive to the coast or something, right? And there's this big area where you can't even get a cell phone signal. You ever notice how you feel so much better when you're there in that area? And then as you get closer to some city, like actually on the coast, that like energetically you don't feel as good as you did on your way there. You ever notice that sort of stuff? People used to seem more alive, more consciously aware, more engaged in conversation, less hostile, less irritable, less, just everyone seemed to be a lot more calm and friendly and also conscious and present more than they are now. I'm just saying. And now I'll get into weird shit. Now, I don't know, maybe I should make the weird shit part of this into like a separate video. Well, the weird shit part of this is I was gonna start getting into like, basically Star Wars metaphor about the spiritual stuff or whatever, that maybe, our reality is made up of energy. And maybe, like in Star Wars, there's a dark side of the Force and a light side of the Force. Tesla, I believe, would call it 0-point energy. It's also been called the etheric field. We're surrounded by... Now, in nature, if you get away from all the other signals of the unnatural stuff, we are surrounded by natural waveform frequencies. And we become attenuated to these frequencies. Like tuned in, we adapt to these frequencies. Our mind, our body adapts to these. Okay, well, here, look up frequency following response. Okay? You can look that up on Wikipedia or something. Just look up, those 3 words, frequency following response. Or if you want a little more information, Look up brainwave entrainment. Or just look up brainwave frequency following response. Mm-hmm. But you can, yeah. You see, our brain waves, it's like any other waveform, can be tuned the same way that you can change a radio station. You can tune a resonant frequency to, in the same way that Nikola Tesla could attenuate his tiny earthquake machine to vibrate at a frequency that matched the material making up a bridge or a building, causing it to collapse. You know, there have been experiments done for many years to understand and figure out what frequency are effective and what frequencies can be used. Well, basically to figure out what frequency goes to what kind of thing. Like, I mean, I don't know how to do it personally. I'm just saying I have a basic general understanding of the concept that they have ways of figuring out, like, you know, what's the resonant frequency of your heart, your lungs, your eyeballs, or whatever the fuck, right? And how can they attenuate that frequency to fuck them up, to put it bluntly? Or how can they alter the frequency of your brainwave patterns to change your emotional state, or to change the level of your cognitive function? You understand what I'm saying? This is stuff that I don't really talk about that often, but I mean, it's probably more the kind of stuff that I should talk about more, because I have, you know, some basic understanding. I could, I guess if I put more effort into it and bust out a laptop or something, instead of trying to do shit on the phone, I could probably, you know, spend more time on a video. I could put stuff together better and, you know, maybe try to lay things out, you know, provide more reference material and data points that are more precise to be able to show you what I'm talking about. I don't know, just being able to quickly share screen and, like, show links and, like, scroll through things and, like, have my pointer on something and point to, like, okay, see this, highlight this, look at this, check this out, look at, you know, like that. Learning my way around the video editing software on a fucking laptop or something would be probably a good idea. But okay, yeah, basically, okay, so frequency following response, look that up. Look up brain waves. Look up brainwave entrainment. Look up the brown noise. You'll laugh at that. You'll be wondering about it. Right. Did you know you could embed sound into light wave? Yeah, that technically like an LED. Okay, it would be more difficult to do with something else, but with a light emitting diode, you could technically transmit pretty much imperceivable. So in a way that I would think would be more capable of going to the subconscious or something. You could tune frequency if you had, a certain type of chip or something, and something like an LED light bulb or something. You could attenuate that frequency to broadcast a message that a person would then have to decipher, through basically reading and the frequency of the light waves and having output to a speaker or something, you know what I mean? Yeah, it would just... So, like, you could broadcast a radio signal transmission to a fucking light bulb. Yeah. If it had... or to a specific part of a power grid or something, for instance. Like, for instance, in some kind of weird, crazy scenario, or every individual place had its own special power box with more precise digital controls, whereby it could be remotely accessed and have the frequency attenuated to a different frequency. But nah, they'd never do that, right? I mean... Smart meter. Yeah. No, I'm just saying there's all kinds of like tech that we're running into where the people don't even like grasp the implications, the possibilities. I mean, if you think our world is, growing dark now, like, you have no idea. I really need to track down this really old article. I read this really old article. I was looking into some totally obscure shit about, like, Tartaria, mud flood shit, and ancient free energy, broadcast. Basically how, like, Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower was like a copy of some ancient tech that was all over the world kind of idea, right? I was looking into this kind of right? And I found, I don't remember if it was one article or a couple different articles that were talking about things where I pieced this stuff together, and it sounded like... Now, this was somebody way back, when they first started, like... I remember talking about articles where people were talking about, like, changes in human behavior and people hearing voices and stuff like that, and when they started broadcasting over, the telephone lines, and when they first started broadcasting, like, radio waves and stuff like that, Mm-hmm. They talked about, like, a noticeable negative change in human behavior occurring at the time when, the early electrical lines and early, radio waves were being broadcast and stuff like that. And so on, right? Another thing that's interesting as it comes to like wave as far as like waveforms and frequencies go. Have you ever heard of this the solfeggio? Right. This is having to do with like uh, the way that music is tuned, like the way it used to be tuned versus the way it's tuned now. How something started happening a long time ago, where it's like they started changing the attenuation of everything from like, I mean, if you look at it from like a spiritual perspective, or use that as an allegory, essentially, or even if you want to use Star Wars as an allegory, basically, it's like they tuned all the frequencies from light side of the force to the dark side of the force, basically. So if you believe in, things like consciousness manifesting reality, or if you ever believed in the general goodness inherent in human beings, and the love in people's hearts, and so on and so forth, right? You could see how a change to our natural frequency, to the fields and frequencies that we are subjected to and in the presence of, could have an effect, a negative effect, on human behavior, which could lead to all sorts of problems in the world. And let's say that it makes people less, let's say for instance, if it made people less consciously aware, more susceptible to suggestion put forth on certain frequencies, and let's say it made people less empathetic and less, people are less consciously aware, less, I mean, or if you want to talk about like, say on a spiritual level, if there is, okay, back to Star Wars, right? Say there's, the dark side of the Force and the light side of the Force. Say the light side of the Force is the natural state of, is the natural frequency field that humanity and all the animals and all this stuff were attenuated to. And then, this dark side is trying to break through. Now there's some movies that kind of talk about something happening where like this darkness seeps into the energy field and starts to take it over. Well, what if the strength of this dark force is not natural, but is being amplified by technological means to disconnect humanity from source and from our natural energetic state of being, what if, right? Alright then.